3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to Mission CTRL, Peralta Design's podcast on all things branding and digital marketing. Since 2008, Peralta Design has launched hundreds of brands with award-winning identities and websites. Join our hosts Ramon and Jorge as they use decades of combined experience to tackle topics with past clients, industry partners, and the rest of the PD crew. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode of Mission CTRL.
Yeah, that was a little of some Motley Crue there. Kickstart My Heart, little hairband intro, courtesy of our guest. He is an executive coach, a speaker, and a published author who helps people and organizations achieve success. Please help me welcome Mr. Chad Betz. Chad, so you picked a hairband, but you don't have any hair. So explain that one.
That is, I used to have hair. You're right. It's hard to thrash when you have no hair. So it just shows my age. I'm an 80s kid, and I love the 80s metal.
Awesome, man. Well, tell us, first of all, thank you for being here, because I know we've tried, rescheduled it. We were going to do Zoom. We made it through the pandemic. So thank you for finally being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, it's gotten in the way of a lot. It's really has been unbelievably disruptive to us all.
It has. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Tell us your backstory.
Sure. So I've spent most of my career in financial services, mostly in mortgages. So if you've ever had a mortgage, paid one company last month, and then all of a sudden you're paying somebody else, I play in the middle there. I help banks and investment companies buy mortgages from each other. Right now I help banks establish loan buying programs so they can supplement their originations.
Okay, so take us back to young Chad. He has hair.
A lot of it, actually.
And he has dreams. When you were little, you weren't thinking you were going to sell mortgages and stuff. So what was one of the things you wanted to be when you grew up?
I would say I was focused on adventure. Mm-hmm. You know, my favorite time was when the Scholastic Book Fair would come to school, and you have like $6 and you can buy a bazillion books.
You get that long strip of
yes.
You bring that in. I remember that.
And just the adventures and getting the National Geographic for Kids magazines where living in Alaska. Okay. And all of those where it's you're just getting out there and having adventures.
Yeah. Now, you reminded me of those Choose Your Own Adventure books. Yeah. Did you like those? Remember those where you could, if you want to go through the door, turn to page 10 or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I was more with the, looking at the wilderness. I mean, getting out
outside.
There. Yes.
Yeah. Did you go camping a lot as a kid?
We did. And I was in the Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and then I had Boy Scouts. For whatever reason, the school didn't have it, so I didn't get there. But yes, being outside was always something I love to do.
Yeah. And did you come from a big family?
No, it's a smaller family. Yeah. My brother and I, and my parents, and usually had a dog. So that was.
And were you from Connecticut or somewhere else originally?
I am. I grew up in Bridgeport.
Okay.
So when I was younger, grew up in the Hollow on George Street across from Columbus School. Then we moved to the North End. And I must have been really expensive because when I moved out, my parents moved to Trumbull. Mm-hmm. And
oh, man. Yeah, it's funny. I have some ties to Bridgeport as well. I lived in the North End. I lived up there by Lupe's drugstore there.
Okay.
Yeah, that area. Rockton Ave and Westfield Ave and.
Yeah, I was by Westfield. I was I was on Thorne Street between Madison and Park.
Yep, excellent. So I know we're going to get to this eventually. Your book, being an author, which we're going to talk about. But do you feel that even at that young age, you had a passion for books, or passion for writing?
More of reading. So I was an avid reader when I was younger. It's interesting, when I was a young adult, I did actually write a book, and I forgot all about it. I didn't publish it. I didn't do anything with it. And I didn't think of it until I was writing the second book. I said, whatever happened to that book? And it's probably stuck on some floppy disk somewhere that no one can ever translate, because it's 17 operating systems ago.
What was your first computer? Because I love this question because it really dates you. I can tell your generation.
Okay,
I
I was the age and geek.
Yeah.
Timex Sinclair.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a Commodore VIC-20.
Okay.
Then I really got high tech, and I got an Apple IIe.
Yeah. Love it. Mine, I had the Commodore 64, but my friends had one of my friends had the Texas Instruments TI-99, or something, where you we were playing video games with like a cassette tape,
right,
that you popped in. It was, Kev, this was way before
my time.
We were like, might as well have like chisels and stones for, technology wise, but
it seems that way.
yeah. But excellent, man. So, how did you take this? Obviously you're working with executives and banks, and you're in the financial industry, but at what point does that translate over into leadership coaching and what you're doing today?
It was life lessons and understanding how much of an impact I've had on people, because I really never knew. 20 some odd years ago, I ran a large volunteer organization, and it was hard. It was a 1-year stint. Had to deal with a lot of crises, and I didn't really realize the impact I had. It was just something that was done. I was glad to have it over. And then 15, 18 years later, running into people saying, the impact you had on me had changed my whole career.
Wow.
And it was that really showed me that I can help people. And that's what it's about. It's, a lot of times you have these people, you're having to coach slate on your wall, and it's like, oh, it's about me and how great I am, blah, blah. But it's about how do you make people better? And the experience of the volunteer work and having that feedback, that I had that impact on people, showed me that I can help people. And that's where it started. And that's, it continues, where I really want to help people.
I love that. I love that it was driven by feedback and not yourself thinking like, hey, I'm a honcho, I'm going to get out there and people are going to pay me to train them, but rather the people, you give the people what they want, right? You heard good feedback. And tell us a bit about, because we're big on like socially responsible companies and all that, and social causes, and that. Tell us a bit more about the volunteer work you did and what that organization was all about.
Sure. Back then, it was I was with the JCs, so we did a lot of fundraising, and it's interesting how someone's volunteer work can evolve. So when I was younger, I was on the front lines, basically, collecting the food, collecting the money. Then I got where I was in leadership, where I was organizing the projects, then organizing chapters. And now I find a lot of my volunteer work is in an advisory position. So like right now I'm working with a group that's trying to set up mentoring for disadvantaged young adults to help them get better career options. So I'm not doing the work. I am doing the advising using my experience. I'm sitting on the board advising the leaders of this group so they can then go out, find people to help execute. So that's really where my passion is. I find there's just people are just left behind and they don't necessarily have the confidence to move forward. They can have the skills, the intelligence, just not the opportunity. And if you're surrounded by misery and people degrading you, basically, it's really hard to come up from that. So to be able to establish it where you have a credible mentor who can help someone to move it up and then build a program around that. So we're still in the pilot stage now, but if we can do that and expand that out to really help people get opportunities, because that's where success comes from. You need that one opportunity. You need that success under your belt. So you say, you know what? I did succeed. I can move forward. And you take the next step. But if you feel like it's failure after failure after failure, it's very hard to escape from that.
It's like a sense of hopelessness, or
Yeah,
they can't
and-
see beyond their immediate surroundings.
Yeah, and we all say about the COVID epidemic, but there's an epidemic of hopelessness in our youth. And it's lower socioeconomic is impacted more, but it's generally across the board with depression and anxiety, and it's the pandemic didn't help with locking everything down.
Right.
But really, there's an epidemic of hopelessness.
Right. That's profound, and I agree. And tell us, I want to kind of dig more into your brand story, because we are going to get to your books and what drives you? Like, why do you care about these young people? Is there something in your past that made you kind of like say, I'm gonna dedicate some of my time towards this disadvantaged youth?
I was blessed by having a strong family unit. We were never wealthy. My father was a teacher, then he moved his way up through the system to become assistant superintendent, and at one point he was acting superintendent. My mother was a librarian. So I always had the support systems. It really wasn't until it was brought to my attention. Everything is, within what's in your eyesight. And I grew up in Bridgeport, and when I was younger, it was on George Street, which is right by the Green Apartments. So you do see.
Those are the projects for those
right.
that aren't.
I'm sorry.
familiar.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they could say it's a public housing unit, and it's really quick. Just quick aside story. I was dating a girl who lived there because I worked at the Wall Bombs grocery store.
Oh
with
yeah, I
her.
remember Wall Bombs.
Yeah. So I go and I drop her off.
Was it Pathmark first, or
It was King Cole.
King Cole? Yeah, and there was a Carvel right across.
That's right.
around
That's
the
right.
corner.
On Paquonic Street there. Yeah. So I dropped her off after the date, and I got surrounded by 4 police cars. So we didn't date again. But that's but it's
No,
there's a little
that
funny
place
story.
is hardcore.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah.
But it came about later where getting a different perspective. When I was working with some of the mentoring, and actually through Sacred Heart University, I was on their diversity council. A lot of people perceive you go and you visit and, you're helping. But the way it's looked upon, it's almost like it's socioeconomic tourism. You go, it's like, look at the poor people, basically, and you're really not helping.
Right.
So what you need to do is really offer something that builds people up. It's not just, saying, I'm from the suburbs. Oh, wow, yeah, they have it hard. Oh, thanks for coming. I'll see you next week. It's something where you can really build something that helps people. And it was that visibility where I didn't have that perspective. And then when that was shared with me, it's like, it was just eye-opening. It's like, 'cause I suffered from that, that socioeconomic tourism. I'd go in thinking I'm helping, but then I go home and nothing's established. So that's really where I want to help people is, to have, programs that really build people up. Then that have a pandemic of hope, around that, and have that spread.
Yeah, awesome, man. So, it leads me into my next question, which was what matters most to you and your community. And I think you spelled that out, and that's the first time I've heard of that term, socioeconomic tourism. And it's profound, and I agree. I think we can all be guilty of patting ourselves on the back, checking a box. We drove through a certain area, but you're actually helping to implement programs that are making an impact in those communities.
Right.
What do you think, if you look back, what are you most proud of?
It's funny. I have a problem with that. It's because I'm always on to the next. And that's I was thinking about that for another project that I'm working on, and I sold $4 billion in loans. Well, that's pretty good. Or I helped a bank buy $100 million this last year. That's great too. But then you look and I mentored a woman who was having problems, working in an office environment because she was on the road, working with more vendors, and it's where you would be a little bit more crude on the road, and she was having trouble adapting to the office experience. So mentoring her through that, and then seeing how she now is more successful and has gotten a job in an even better place. So is that where it's at? And again, it's all of these things help people, but one is the buying the loans. That was my job. That's what I do. But going above and beyond, helping people and building others so that they can do great things, and then they can in return it helps me too. It gives me confidence seeing that they've gone and done great things, and that's I think that's more where it's at.
Yeah, it's more rewarding for sure. What would you say is the Chad Betz brand, and does it align with what you want it to be?
Yeah, this is going to sound like an interview answer, but I'll break it down a little bit more. I get results. I am very goal oriented, and this goes back to what we're talking about with reading. When I was in college, there's an article from 1898 by Elbert Hubbard. So it's not L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, I was going to say,
that's
the Scientologist.
It's Elbert Hubbard.
Yeah.
He was a
Kevin's
journalist.
a Scientologist, by the way. So
Okay.
Never.
But I guess that's a question. Elbert Hubbard, and it was from 1898, and he wrote an article called "A Message to Garcia," where President McKinley tasked a soldier named Rowan to go find the leader of the Cuban rebels, and he just went and did it. And this
is this the story where he goes from one side of the island to the other?
That's right. Yeah, it spends a week and he brings the message back. That's exactly right. And he didn't ask where he was. He didn't say, "Do I have to do it now?" And that just struck me. Yeah. It just
he just says,
"Just did it.
I'll take care of it."
That's right. Yeah, give me a week. But I looked at that and I said, I want to be Rowan. I want people to say, you give it to Chad, it gets done.
Right.
And when I look for people who work for me, I look for that too. Here's a task. It's okay to ask questions. Get it done. And that's sunk with me. And I want that to be my brand, that when you work with Chad, you get results. And I believe I've stood up to that, except in my weight loss. My trainer and my doctor are still yelling at me. I'm still too fat.
Oh no!
So, but
you squeezed into your suit, so that's what matters.
I did. The tie last night was tough, so no tie today.
That's when can you do that top button?
That's it. That's the goal of life. Right. Yeah, you don't need a little extender.
So let's talk about your books a little bit, because
Sure.
you've got 2 of them out right now.
Yes.
We'll start with your first book was Late Bloomer.
Yes.
So let's start with that one. Tell us the inspiration and like who's your audience and how it can help people.
Sure. I actually started out writing a novel, and when I was writing it, I was talking to my peers. Oh, I could never do that. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about like an exercise routine. Oh, I'm too old for that. Too old. You're 5 years younger than me. What do you mean too old? And I heard I can't from people from 35 to 50. And what I found is that people give up on their goals, even earlier than that. If you have, and pop culture hurts us too with this. You have the 25 under 25, and people think that I'm 30. I'm
when you go to the party store and it's like over the hill.
That's right.
If you're 40, you're over the hill.
Yeah, or it's even like you have people on I fall and I can't get up, and they look like they're 50. It's like, and it's all out there, and it's just pounded into us, and that based on our insecurities. Well, I didn't get there when I was 25. I guess I just can't do it. And some of us, in the case of the title of the first book, we're late bloomers. We don't get it right away. And it takes time. And especially these days where we're living longer. I mean, even if you're 60 and we're living into our 80s, what are you going to do with 20 years? There's so much that could be accomplished. And it's just, focusing on that you still have it in you. And success does not have an expiration date.
I love it, man. I love it. And when did you publish this one?
2019.
Excellent. How long did it take you to write this book?
Yeah, the first the first one, writing or editing. I mean, the first the first draft took about 3 months, and I read it. It was the most god awful thing I've ever read in my life. And then after about 12 more months of myself editing it and then sending it to someone else to look at. So I would say it was the process was about 2 years total.
Yeah.
But it's just the whole thing is put a stake in the ground, write a first draft.
Yeah.
Just
Don't do like The Shining and go to a hotel and kill your whole family.
No, that's the distraction.
Oh man. So late bloomer. I love the message behind it, and it's true, man. I mean, and you even got Don Wetmore on here, who's a friend of ours, and just a great guy with a quote on here. And now, did you have this is more like for our aspiring authors out there and entrepreneurs. I mean, your audience could be pretty much anyone, executives, business owners, people in general, middle age and up.
Yes.
Pretty much. What was your strategy like once you wrote it? How did you kind of get the word out there?
Word of mouth. I didn't expect this book to be a bestseller. I'm not going to be on New York Times with it. But it just offers that little bit of credibility for me. That's the benefit for me, and it helps others. Going around talking to people about the book. That's actually that's what led to The Second Mouse. Was some of the feedback I got from the first book.
Yeah, tell us a bit about this one. Everybody says, what is it? I mean, I get it. So the second mouse gets the cheese. What happens to the first mouse?
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, it's from the old joke. The early bird may get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. And life offers us traps. Right. There's a lot of traps, and the 3 traps I talk about in The Second Mouse are the mediocrity trap, the isolation trap, and the artificial life trap. With the mediocrity trap, there's a couple things that lead to that. One is not having a good understanding of what we understand success to be. We have so many influencers in our life pushing us to say, oh, if you become an accountant, you'll always have a job. And that might be true, but if you hate accounting, it's hard to be successful. And the other piece is that it's important to plan. But we get stuck in planning. We get comfortable with planning, and we never execute. So we're not failures, but we never reach that level of success our potential gives us. We're stuck in that middle. And that could lead to the isolation trap, where it's like you feel, oh, I can't succeed. And you may doubt yourself. You may even have self-loathing, that maybe there's something really bad in your past, and you just haven't forgiven yourself. That will keep you from being successful. So to be able to trust yourself, and more importantly, forgive yourself for mistakes you've made. And if you have to go and apologize to other people, do it. Go out and get it off your chest, because it's going to hold you back. And then one thing that's relatively new is the artificial life trap with the word games out there, or these empire building games. I mean, back, I'll age myself again, way back when Facebook first started, there was a game, Mafia Wars. And I would play it at night. And it was, yeah. And I'd play it at night. And then I started getting up to higher levels. And then I noticed that when I was at work, people would attack me. And I'm like, why am I have all these points gone? So I said, you know what? I better check it when I'm at work. So I did, and all of a sudden I found myself playing it.
You're in
work.
The virtual world all
That's
day.
That's right. And it's like, and you get that endorphin rush of success, but it's not real success. So you're really focused on, getting this little rush of success here, because it's a cold, hard world out there, but that's where real success lies. So we distract ourselves with these little bits of success. And I have nothing against video games, but if you get wrapped up to it and it just feeds your endorphins, so you don't go out and pursue what's real. You have to pursue life experiences, not likes. Right. I mean, I guess that's really the key.
That's a great message, especially we were having an internal conversation today about the metaverse, and you're seeing like Wendy's just built a restaurant in the metaverse.
Right.
So we're moving towards building this artificial life. Ready Player One kind of was similar, Oculus. People are buying those and playing golf and not leaving the home, kind of a thing. So we're trending that way. But I think it is important that we don't miss out on real life, on what's happening, and it is a distraction because with writing my book, and I'm sure writing your book, I was skimming through yours. You said that you got up early every morning to write, and that's one of the things I did. Was that was my perfect time to write before my wife got up and before people started. Before I felt like I was ignoring people or ignoring things I needed to do. I just got up early and found time. And yeah, I mean, spending time in a virtual world totally eats up your time.
I mean, even it's like when I was writing the book too, it's like you get a little distracted. You know what? I need a little pick me up. Let me go on YouTube and watch some Rodney Dangerfield or Richard Pryor, and you pick me up. It's like, how did 3 hours go by? And it happens. It happens to us all.
Yeah.
But if you set yourself up where you're really immersed in the metaverse, it's hard to get out. Yeah. Whereas, because even on the periphery where you kind of stick your toe in, it's like 2 hours can go by and it's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I've seen you do some speaking engagements. You've made some appearances on the Second Mouse. When you do these, are you still promoting the late bloomer? Are you kind of doing both, or are you focused? Like, what's your strategy? Because we have entrepreneurs out there listening and business owners listening, and there's this tried and true model of, when you get to a certain age, you become a subject matter expert, you build your brand, you write a book, and you understand the book's not going to be a bestseller, but it like you mentioned, it establishes credibility. Then you start doing the speaking, and that kind of leads to your work where you're, consulting. So, what's been your strategy with this? Are you bootstrapping this? Is it trial and error, or do you have an agency you're working with? Kind of tell us a bit about the planning stages of promoting your book.
So it started off trial and error, especially with Late Bloomer. Late Bloomer, I designed the cover. I went on, I got some free artwork, and then you'll see in the inside cover, it gives credit to the person whose artwork it is. I had volunteer editors, and I really bootstrapped it. The next one, I got some design help for the cover, but it's mostly me doing it again, because I didn't want to invest that much in it. I wanted to get it out there and build it. But now that it's out there, I'm starting to grow it. So where I will probably contract with an agency, building up to get the website with the speaking engagements and things like that. Because I've been leveraging it for different classes. So like I'll teach a class on getting to the first draft of a book. That's the key. I mean, a lot of people. I even now I know some people who are writing a book, but they're designing a cover and they haven't put one word down. It's like
that's the fun part.
It is. It's a fun part, but again, that's the distraction.
Exactly.
If you don't have a first draft, you don't have a book. Right. You can have all the covers and the promotional materials, but if you don't have the book, you don't have a book.
Right.
Yeah, and then leveraging it out with some of the lessons in the Second Mouse. I've been going out, and it's great. The one silver lining of the pandemic is the introduction of Zoom. And I know that everybody has Zoom fatigue, but I love Zoom. And the reason is it conquers geography. I did a presentation in Singapore on the book. I've done talks in Saudi Arabia, and it's amazing. So while everybody's getting Zoom fatigue, I am doubling down with cameras and lights and new presentation software, so that you don't have the little talking head and a big slide. And it's when you're doing presentations, you could mix it up a little bit where people can actually see your eyes and they're not falling asleep looking at slides.
Yeah, I mean, and imagine the flights. I mean, you don't have to take these flights around the world to pitch the book. You bring the audiences to you. Would you say that's one of the major kind of, I wouldn't say changes, but it seems to me like that technology in this, utilized to promote books and so forth and give workshops is here to stay for you as far as your repertoire.
I would say 100%. I mean, that's the one thing I've learned through the pandemic that will definitely stay, because it's easy.
Yeah.
And if you put some effort into it, learn how to do it properly, and buy some tools, you can have a really engaging virtual presentation.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of times, people see the PowerPoint slide with 15 bullets that they would normally see in person. They see it online, turn their camera off, start playing with their phone. But if you can reform it where it's more engaging, and you make the person really look at it. I mean, in a half-hour presentation in person, I might have 10 slides. Online, I'll have 70 slides. There's pictures, there's cutouts, it's all different things, and it's boom, 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 boom. Because if you're not moving fast, they're going to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's but if you can do that, you can really be engaging and have an excellent experience for your audience.
Excellent. What's an ideal client for you for your consulting business?
Someone who's in the middle. What I mean by that is they have had some success, whether it's in business or volunteer or wherever, and they just feel stuck, and they need that little boost to get to that next level. I would say that is the person who I can help most.
Okay, and what's the best way for them to reach you?
Either through my LinkedIn, Chad C. Betz, or via email. They can reach out to me, Chad C. Betz, B-E-T-Z, all one word, @gmail.com.
All right, awesome. And what are the best places to purchase your books?
I'd say the most convenient is on Amazon. And if you link in with me, you'll see some of the events I've had, so you can buy it in person, meet me, and we could talk about it.
And well, Chad, it's been a pleasure having you here. I always like to say I'm much taller in person, but you definitely are much taller in person. So it's been great meeting you and having you here in studio. So I'd love to have you back, and you've got a great message, and you're doing a lot of great work out there. So keep it up.
Thanks a lot for having me. It was a great time.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is Ramon Peralta with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.
Thank you for taking this journey with us. To learn more about Peralta Design and our work, go to www.peraltadesign.com and subscribe to keep up with the crew.